Hey, first impressions for Serial Experiments Lane, episode one. So I just finished it, and I think I kind of do like it. I've heard a lot of good things about this show, but I'm not gonna be judging it off of what other people have said. Of course, I'm not also gonna be affected by a lot of other people's thoughts about the show. So if a lot of people say that it's good, I'm not instantly gonna assume that it's going to be good, or I'm gonna have expectations that it's going to be good. But I'm interested. I am intrigued about the world of Serial Experiments Lane after just coming from another anime called Tokyo Ghoul. Fuck sake, that anime, bro. So I like this a little bit more. I think this is a lot more my tempo. It's somber. It's very quiet, and there's a lot of emphasis on like on just the sound itself. And I'm interested with like the themes that this show is gonna end up talking about, and the story of Lane as well. And I mean, there's just a lot of things that I ended up thinking throughout this first episode, and the first thing that popped up in my head was just how they're so conflicted, I guess, with like two worlds, right? The world of the wired or online, and then the offline world, the real world. And it seems to me that there's this clear distinction between how people perceive, or particularly how Lane and even her dad and her mom perceive the real world, and then beyond that, like the wired, it's this completely different place, and there's this I guess beneficial choice of going into the wired and connecting with other people, because it just people probably just enjoy that far more. And there's a lot of things that I ended up just thinking about throughout this whole episode. And that one of the first few things is, again, I don't want to dive deep into like what could be talked about in this show, but the first things that just popped up in my head was the reason why I feel like this show happened in the first place. I know that sounds weird talking about it, but um I do end up having to jump to that kind of train of thought, because this is this is going to be diving into a lot of very serious topics. It's going to be diving into a lot of I don't want to say taboo. I don't think it's necessarily taboo, but definitely topics that are a lot more sensitive. So I'm picking it off of it being, of course it's an anime made by Japanese people, written definitely probably by a Japanese person. So, and the setting is in Japan. Of course, the culture is going to be in Japan. The lifestyle is going to be like Japan. The mentality is going to be like in Japan. What am I getting at? Okay, so you know how like Japan has like a really really big problem when it comes to suicides, right? And there's a lot of mental health problems that's pretty much arise over the past few years in Japan. But I always get to think like, what's you look at the other side of the coin. You look at the opposite of Japan. And I know this is starting to get very very convoluted, very weird, but if you go look at, say, and no malice intended, but if you go look at, say, a much less developed country, they don't really have problems with mental health. They don't really have problems with the just in general the mental state of a population in a less developed country, or in a less developed nation or region. And it tends to be because they are far more busy trying to stay alive. They're far more busy trying to survive. They're far more busy trying to find food, trying to find, shelter, or all these other physical things. So what ends up happening is, in these less developed countries, they have problems that are more physical, right, rather than mental. So they don't have these introspective or very self self thinking or self thought, or self-made thoughts. They have conversations with their mind, conversations within themselves, that kind of push them to have this echo chamber within them. So in Japan, and it's very apparent in Japan. And Japan's a very individualistic country and society. Therefore, a lot of people tend to think in a much more enclosed setting. People don't people aren't really as expressive. Or wait, did I just say individualistic? My bad. Let me retract that. I meant collectivistic society, very collectivistic society, as opposed to like Western countries where they are, or you know, other nations where they don't really put an emphasis on uh, on the mental state. But I'm diving too deep. I'm diving too deep. Again, it's interesting how Chisa, right, one of the girls who, I say one of the girls, but there's only technically one of them, right? But there was another one who also did commit suicide, if I'm not mistaken, on the train, and that really affected Lain. She ends up, I think, having a vision of it again in her mind. So I'm a little bit confused with some of the things when it's like, okay, is this in her head or not? But I think I can deduce it at least. There's this thing as well with her dad. I mean, her dad is just straight up. What is like? There's this one time she was like, "I'm not scared," and then he just like laughs like, bro, what? And his dad, or her dad, is so engrossed in front of the laptop, or in front of the computer, and it's kind of weird to see, because it's like, I mean, he proceeds to comment about his wife, saying that, oh, your mom doesn't get it, like she doesn't know how good like it is in the war. And I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? You have like multiple screens, multiple computers set up. I mean, you don't need that much computers, so it's I don't know. And I think there's this this, well, not obsession, but there's this interest for in the world of Lane, with like the morbidness, I guess, of it. But for other people to, if you were in a position, someone someone that ends up committing suicide, and then out of nowhere they just sent you an email after their passing, it's kind of creepy, it's kind of odd, right? But it seems like for Lane, she was very interested in it. She was like, you know, she was curious about finding out about this email. What is this email about? And just about wired, the wired world, or the online world itself. So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that I'm interested. I'm intrigued. That's how I want to describe like my whole experience watching the first episode of Serial Experiments Lain. Is I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. It's a lot more quiet. It's a lot more introspective, and it really just makes you sit down a little bit and just start think a little bit more of the bigger picture of the world of Lain. So yeah, I'm interested. I really am interested. I like, I want to comment on this as well. I really like the moments where it was, there's certain moments of silence throughout the episode, where sometimes it puts a bit of focus on like the background noise, or I think it has to do with like the quality of it as well. I mean, this was made in when, the 2000s, so I think what, 2005, if I'm not mistaken. So the audio quality is a bit like, it kind of sounds like it was recorded in a studio, but I don't know. I kind of like it. It feels a little bit more intimate, but again, intrigued. I am very, very intrigued, and I'm looking forward to watch the next episode. Although this isn't the same as how I was with Tokyo Ghoul. When it was with Tokyo Ghoul, I pretty much lined it all up. Like, I finished season 1, then I hopped on season 2, then I hopped on season 3. This one, I could take it a little bit more slower and just go through it episode by episode, learn the world of Lain, learn you know what her mental state is, and how she thinks, what kind of person Lain is, and what kind of people is she around with it. And I want to keep on yapping. I want to talk about like this topic as well that I wanted to bring up about stagnation, and maybe it's a lot more evident in a country like Japan, where people tend to be stagnant and mentally stagnant, so they don't really have a lot of things to go off of that's probably a bit more value, some zest for like the brain or salt for the brain. But yeah, this is just a first impressions, okay? I don't think I need to dive in too deep. So there you go. That is Serial Experiments Lane, and I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued. I like that. Okay, I'll see you all on episode 2, okay? So I just finished episode 2 of Lane. I thought I wasn't gonna make a video out of this because I don't think anyone was gonna be interested in the first place. I mean, I might as well, right? Because I really don't know what the direction of the show is going to. I'm still in the dark as to what the whole thing is about. But I guess that's part of the process. We're gonna go through it in the next few episodes. We're still in episode 2. I think me watching a lot of I guess fast paced anime, or a little bit of anime that already have an idea as to what's happening in episode 1 or in episode 2. So here I'm still a little bit, well, I don't want to say confused, but I'm still lost with where the direction really is going, because we have this whole thing about the connected, the wired, right, as they call it. And there seems to be a very, very, I guess, ominous or mythical thing about this whole system. And I mean, it is kind of funny when I saw the systems that they use, the Navi, and how like advanced it is. But I mean, I guess it's fiction, so but we never really got to that point. I mean, now we have AI, and you could definitely make a lot of stories about AI. But here it's just it's interesting. But you could say that maybe that's a little similar to our current predicament, I suppose, with how the world is, with like the internet, with AI, and how people interact with these things. But I want to go first of all with like how stupid it is. Like, what grade are these girls in? Like, are they in high school or are they in middle school? Because I can definitely say for sure that the uniform that they have could be from middle school. And I'm asking, why the fuck are y'all going to clubs? I don't care if you're in high school or in middle school. When I was in high school, I didn't do shit anywhere near that. The most I ever had was probably like on a Christmas party, and my dad's like, "Hey, try this out." He just gave me like a small shot of like of wine or something, and I was like, I hate it. I hated that taste. That was the most I've ever had. And you're telling me that these high schoolers or middle schoolers, I don't even know what grade they are in. You're telling me that they're going to clubs and all that, like, whatever. Right? I got pissed at it, but if that's the direction of where the show is gonna be, like, I mean, it's like a downward spiral of Lain, then I could see why it makes sense, right? Because of the people she's surrounding herself with, and it's textbook one-on-one having bad peers. But it just went a little odd, I guess, at the very end. I mean, these girls the reason why they started off with this was because apparently they found someone in the club in Siberia, which is kind of funny because cyber, but then they add IA, so it's like Siberia, like the place. I just dropped my mic. I meant the place Siberia, that region in Russia. So, which is like pretty isolated. So I don't know. Maybe they're trying to do a play on the meaning there. Like there's a double entendre, like with the meaning, because Siberia, and then the internet and the wire. Whatever. Right. So, and then right there at the end, this dude who's geeked the fuck out from Axella, right? The drug which uses nanomechanisms. You like eat it, and it pretty much increases. Like, I'd understand if it was like some crazy ass drug that like makes you see shit, but it's not that crazy. I'm not gonna lie, because we saw his perspective, right? When the dude was taking the drug, everything was just slowed down, and I would have been like, oh, everything's just slowed down, then it's fine, right? It's like you feel like you're going fast, but you're not really going fast. But if it was like a drug where he starts to hallucinate, he has some psychotic like episodes, or he's starting to see some shit, then I would have been like, oh yeah, nah, get this drug away from people, because that's not right. And then he starts shooting up the club. I'm like, what is happening? I thought the police raided it. I would have been happy because at least now Lane is gonna be, she's gonna be regretful of her decisions. But no, the dude shot up the place, and I think he committed server slide. I say I think because I don't really see him point. I mean, yeah, he did, right? He pointed in the inside of his mouth, but then 1 second later, the gun was like here. It was almost as if like he never really pointed it back to his mouth. I mean, if you said like, then I guess it doesn't really, I guess it doesn't really make sense. But why am I digging deep into it, right? There's no point really. But again, I mean, I'm a little bit odd awed out by everything because right before the guy shoots himself, Lane comes up to him and was like, you realize we're all connected. I'm like, everyone is like putting so much emphasis on like the internet and connectedness and the wired, right? And it's like they put so much. I don't know. To me, I feel like it's all in the head. I don't mean it in like a dream state kind of way. I don't mean it like everyone's like um geeked out on something because of some drug or whatever. It's like you're it's kind of hard to explain, but the way I'm saying is you put so much into this, like you put so much thought into something that honestly you probably should have never given that much thought in the first place. Even now when we have the internet, when we have all of these things, it doesn't really get to the point with how we see it with Lane, right? And the people around her. I guess you could say, well, the people around Lane replicates those people in the real world, which yeah, you could say that, but when you do look at how people are in like on like the internet, and how they are in serial experiments Lane. I mean, the internet is so fucking vast. There's like so many different types of people. There's me. There's types of people like me, but then there's also other types of people that are assholes. There's also other types of people who are oblivious, who are innocent, who are kind, who are good, who are evil, who are sensible, who don't really give a fuck, who don't really care, got their own thing going, who probably hop on the internet to search up something and then never come back. Like there's a lot of things, right? There's a lot of things, and it just it's just a matter of of you putting that amount of thought into or that amount of emphasis on things like this. I mean, look, if I told Lane, girl, go to like a fucking mountain or something and like train with a monk. I don't know, like have some kind of life changing trip with Zuko or some shit because like this is really not good for your mental health. I mean, it's all of these cases coming together and I'm just starting to think like, maybe Lane is just that she's just that odd one, right? She has a much more different mental capacity or mental thinking, and she probably needs to get out of this. I mean, I'm not even gonna mention the times where like there were a bunch of random ass dudes in this episode who were just staring at her. Like there was that one guy in like school, and then the other guy right when she left at home, and I'm like, yo, that dude is a fucking pred. Get that motherfucker out of here, okay? Because oh my days, bro, I don't even know what that person is. I can't find any explanation in my head that I can think of, but I don't know. I just thought like this is kind of I'm lost. Okay, I really am lost. So, but yeah, that's Serial Experiments Lane episode 2, and I guess we'll have to watch more and see what it actually is. So yeah. I'll see you on episode 3 or maybe 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 cuz I already said it at the start of this video. I was like, am I going to be talking? Do I want to record a video because I don't really think anything I'm going to say is that interesting. So, I was thinking I might as well just skip and then go watch episode 3 and then talk about it. But I was just confused by the end of episode 2. It wasn't really that compelling for me to talk about it, but I just wanted to talk about something. But yeah, I'll see you on episode 3. I'm just saying episode three because I kind of wish I could like, you know what I mean, like just change that and then tell myself, oh yeah, well, if I say that I'm gonna record an episode three, that means I'm not gonna record an episode three. Therefore, I'm gonna record an episode five or six, which means I'm halfway through the season, right? Which is better than me doing a video every episode because it's like why, right? You're just convolute. See you in episode three. Okay, I know I did say that I wasn't gonna make a video at episode three, and then I was gonna make halfway through the series, but I couldn't. I mean, that last bit in episode three was sorta eerie. I'm not sure what is up with that, but for some reason, her sister, I can't remember her name. I think it was like Mika Maki or something. She ends up going into Lane's room, and she's tinkering with like her Navi, and then out of nowhere, her face just ends up being different. She ends up saying "Welcome home, sis," which I don't think anyone in this family has shown any sort of warmth towards each other. It just feels like a made up family with how they were all acting. I mean, the only one who seemed a little bit more eccentric was her dad, who was so obsessed with like the Navi and anything that's like related with these electronics. But then these two guys appear right in front of her door, her home, and then her older sister ends up seeing them. But then they proceed to say, you don't you didn't see us, you saw nothing. And then they had all this cybernetic bullshit they were wearing. I was like, well, at least they're not the type of bad people I assumed them to be. But I'm just even more confused. Like, are you telling me her dad or maybe her mom, like both of them, are like involved in some shady business? I'm a little bit I'm a little bit lost. I think the one thing that seems continuous, or that always seems to pop up every time, is the fact that Lane just really wants to, or I don't want to say really wants, but something's like pulling her to go into the wires. Something's pulling her to be a part of like the internet, or the wired, wants to be connected. And that thing just really is odd to me, because there's this whole thing about her having a different personality on the wired versus in real life. And you have these kids in the club. I'm like, I'm confused to the point where I actually assumed that maybe these types of these kids are actually grown-ups acting like children. Like, what's happening is like, it's showing that their mental state or capacity is sort of like a kid, but in reality they're like adults, but they're symbolizing themselves that they're kids. But I don't think they are. I was assuming like maybe it had something to do with like the psyche and all that kind of stuff, but it wasn't. And now there's this whole thing about it as well. I mean, they started it off in a previous episode about Lain having a different personality. They saw her in like the bar previously. She was so different. She apparently had a wilder side. And then now the kids that she ended up meeting with, she's in eighth grade, by the way. What the man, I don't even know where to go off of, because it's like, she's in eighth grade, she's in a club, and then you also have these kids in the club, and then there's this other kid, this boy, who ends up asking her to go out on a date because of like the psyche that she has. Like, it's like people are like trying to want to get that psyche, because it gets you you become part of it, you become connected to it. Like, your physical body is transported into this into the wire, the internet. And that thing kind of just is odd to me. Like, there's this obsession with people to going into the internet, going into the wired, because maybe that's like their case of escaping real life, which I think is the whole theme of this show, of like trying to escape from it, or maybe the stagnant nature of their lives, or how much they hate their real lives. I mean, a good example would be to look at Lane's family, and it's so clear that there's barely any warmth in that home. Like, there's no love in that home. There's just really nothing in that home, and you could see why Lain has been such a she she seems so devoid of emotion. But clearly, the what happened in the second episode when the guy committed suicide, it clearly affected her. Death is something that just keeps on following her, and it's like it's trying to woo her or seduce her into going into the wired. And I'm just I'm like, why would you want to? Right? I could see why people, but why would you want to? It's something that, like, I can see it. I can see why people would go to the wired, right, to escape. But I think it's more of a case of curiosity or forced. You're forced, or you. It's just odd to me. I mean, now you have these two agents that come up to their door and talking about, like, you don't see us, and it seems like they're not for they're not waiting for anyone. Well, they're not waiting for the older sister. Like, they don't have anything they need to talk about with the older sister. So I'm assuming that this has something to do with either Lane's dad or Lane herself, because they've been tracking her for a very long time. Again, it's I'm confused. I really am confused. I mean, the only thing I'm getting out of this is that you have a bunch of people who are so into this connected, being connected into the wired, and now we have this whole thing about Lane having different personalities, but she seems to be oblivious about it. I mean, I feel like Lane is hiding, or maybe the show in a way is like hiding from us who Lane really is, because they know her name, they know who she is, and there's this one guy who's like, hey, hey Lane, like, what's up, like, want to plan another rave or something, and he goes on to say, like, you're doing this little girl act, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? She's a little girl. She's in 8th grade. You're like a 30-year-old motherfucker. What are you talking about? Lane is a little girl. She is a little girl. She's in 8th grade. What are you talking about planning a rave with her? Unless there's, Lane has this other persona of her that, people think, like, okay, yeah, this Lane, like, this is the Lane that we know, and this Lane acts mature, and she acts like an adult, so it's a completely different. And then that's the person that people saw. That's the person that people in Siberia saw. But I'm just, what? Like, bro, sometimes, man, I'm sort of getting pissed, because when you start to involve children in an underground world like this, it really just riles me up, because kids are not supposed to be, they're not supposed to be in an area like this. I don't even think, like, you saw those 3 kids in Siberia, right? That, like, they constantly hang around in that place. I'm like, why are kids hanging out in a club? I don't know. It's something about involving kids, and you might not say it's not as underground as it is, because it's in a public space. It still is an area that kids shouldn't be in the first place. They're not supposed to be in a club. They're not supposed to be in a place where somebody just shot it up like a day ago, or people having sex, getting drunk, smoking, and all these kinds of vices. I'm just, gang, like, there's just bad influence upon bad influence. And this again, with Lane as well. Like, I'm assuming the show is hiding some kind of some kind of background or information about Lane and who she really is. But I'm hoping it's some random girl that isn't really Lane. But as more as this series progresses, I'm starting to think that it is Lane, but she seems to have no clue as to who that other person is, that other personality of her, that alter of her, which you could say, like, maybe that's kind of very reminiscent, or very similar to how people are in real life. They have their own identities on the internet, and then it's sort of fabricated, or maybe that's their true selves. But again, it's like, I don't know. I'm still thinking over the fact that Lane is an 8th grader. death can be a very, very mentally tiring and mentally destructive thing, but for her to be to spiraling down and getting involved with these kinds of people, I think there's just it's just even more and more worse. I don't know the direction really of where this show is gonna be, but I'm thinking, of course, it has to do with Lain literally transporting herself into the world of the Wired, of being connected to it. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see, right? Well, episode 4 it is then. I don't know, something about this show is just quiet, I guess. It's not a different kind of quiet. It's like a quiet of like not really sombering, but it's not even odd. It doesn't feel odd. It doesn't feel eerie, but there's this sort of silence and just almost devoid of any kind of sound that I feel detached from it. It's not the same kind of detachment that I had when I was watching Tokyo Ghoul with like the characters. Like no, there's something about the sterileness of sterileness of the show, and like a hospital. It feels like a hospital. You see it as well when whenever she would go out of her home and the sun is up, and it feels like a hospital. Everything is just quiet. There's really no sound. There's no wind. There's not that much wind. You don't really hear any background noise, and it's like it's just silence, and this bright shining light that isn't really like a warm light, right? It's more of it's like a hospital light. You're walking around in an empty hospital with people who are just detached from each other. I don't know. That's kind of like the vibe I'm getting from this show. It feels emotionless. Like this is how I feel watching throughout the show. I feel emotionless, the same way the show feels, the same way the show exudes or shows to me. Like it's telling me like, yeah, I'm emotionless. Therefore, me as a watcher feels emotionless towards the show. I don't know. I don't know. I'm still lost. I still want to say like I'm lost, but I'm learning a little bit more and more about the world of Lain, but and the world of this anime. But yeah, I'll see you, I guess, on episode 4. So I finally finished episode 4 of Serial Experiments Lain, and I think I'm starting to think that maybe she's the one that's being used as an experiment or something. Because the agents that were following her right around the end of this episode, it seems like she has now some kind of ability or some kind of force where she ended up breaking one of like the visors or like the eye thingies that the agents had. And this whole time I was just thinking about how she's pretty much, I feel like she's slowly being integrated into the Wired, and she was even warned by her father, which I did find very you know good, because I thought he was just as bad, or maybe he was a little bit supportive about what Lain has been doing. But I'm glad that he was a little bit more sensitive, not sensitive, but a little bit more sensible throughout this whole thing. Throughout the whole thing that Lain has been doing. I mean, it's interesting how it seems like she's the one so engrossed in the Navi and the Wired and the internet more so than her father, and she has all these electronic gadgets sprawled around, and I think that last bit with like the agent and her being so engrossed in like the Navi was the one that really the one that I was really thinking about the most. But in reality, there's so many things to talk about episode 4. I mean, you know just the simple fact that it seems like she's a lot more expressive, she's a lot more emotional. If you watch throughout this episode, you sort of see her. She has a bit of maybe a smirk or a bit of emotion from her eyebrow, and you see in the past 3 episodes she barely had that. Maybe she had a bit of, she had an emotion of shock. She had an emotion of being surprised, but she never really showed that much human. I guess you know how like humans tend to have like um they they speak in a way where they still have an expression on their face. And so for example, with me, when I'm trying to put out a point, I show my eyes like this. You could see me do it, right? When I'm talking about something and I want to express a point, I do it like this. But whenever Lain does something, she's just very very devoid of any kind of emotion, and she's just really really flat about it. And throughout this episode, you sort of see her just become very very different, right? Even her classmates notice her difference, her change in attitude and the way she just carries herself. And this whole thing about Fantoma, was it Phantasma or whatever? Man, I'm forgetting names, but there's this game that apparently a bunch of kindergartners were playing it, and a lot of these adults are getting terrified of it. And there's this one guy, the second guy, who was being chased by this by a kid, or Lain, I think. Is He ends up shooting, right, in the game itself, but then he proceeds to say he's sorry, um or like it's not really his fault or something. Yeah, that was weird to me, because it was like, was it implying that he actually shot somebody? I mean, there's this cloth wrapped around what seems to be the shape of a body, and Lain is there in this like metaphysical like self, where she's present in the real world, but she's not there. But then this guy is like seeing the wire, the game itself. So I'm thinking it has something to do with the processor that Lain picked up, the psyche thing, the psyche processor, and now she's now using that as well. And this guy probably got it, but he probably bought it from somewhere, because with Lain, it was literally gifted to her. I don't know by who, but somebody probably wanted to see. But again, I think now we're starting to find that. And then the other guy, the guy in Siberia, I just want to mention, like, I know this seems very small or insignificant, but Siberia, the logo that they had in the past few episodes, it was actually light blue, or this very very cool color. But I think now there's like a bit of a shift or a change in the color. It's now red. I don't know if that means anything. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just pulling its strings, or I might have just misremembered it. But I swear, in the past few episodes, Siberia's logo was light blue, a cool color, but now it's red. Maybe to signify that Lain has a bit more passion, a bit more energy, a bit more fire. But yeah, it seems like she's getting herself integrated into this, into Navi, into the to the internet or whatever. I don't know what's the implications for that, what could possibly happen with her, but I don't think it's anything that's gonna be good. I mean, even the agent guys were panicking after she was screaming, "Get away, get out," or I don't know. I really don't know what's gonna happen here. I don't know what her ambitions are. I don't really know what her ultimate plan is, what her ultimate goal is. But I did see a little bit of a remorseful face from her when she encountered that man who was running on the roof, and he ends up talking to himself. I don't know. Her face looked a little sad there, but who knows? I don't really know. I don't really know really her full intentions. But she's going to the Wired. So there you have it. I'll see you then on episode 5. Yeah, I couldn't contain myself. I mean, as you can see from my face and you can hear from my voice and my tone, if you're wondering how far am I in Serial Experiments Lane, well, I'm in the ninth episode. For fuck's sake, bro, I am absolutely lost with this shit because I don't even know what the hell is happening. I thought I was gonna be here talking about, oh yeah, Lane is like this girl who probably deserves to get sent to, I don't know, fucking Dagestan or Ethiopia or some shit, just to get her away from like the internet and all that dumb bullshit she's going through. But then now, 9 episodes in, you're telling me there's fucking aliens, Mongolian utopian society, fucking electromagnetic waves of the earth, dolphins, and ultrasonic communication, and scientists meeting up with aliens, signing treaties, and all this fucking gang. I I was going through episode 6 up until episode 9. I thought like, I was telling myself, okay, you know what, I'm gonna just watch the next episode expecting an answer, like expecting something at least, right, to wrap my head around this, whatever is happening in Lane. I'm just not getting anything. Call me stupid. I honestly would just take it. I honestly would just, I'd be fine with you calling me stupid or whatever, because I'm not getting any of this shit. I'm so reserved with calling this anime ass because I really don't want to. I mean, at first I was like, okay, I'm intrigued with the world of Lain. I'm intrigued in understanding what Lain actually, Serial Experiments Lain actually is, right? But then you end up talking about this PSI, fucking Gangnam Style, whatever bullshit you're trying to tell me about children experimentation, ESP, metaphysical, fucking esoteric Nazi fucking things that they're doing, man. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they started talking about Nazis, bro, and talking about like, oh yeah, the Nazis, they had like zombies, and it actually ties into like Call of Duty and like the Cold War. What is this, bro? At first, while I was watching this anime. I was telling myself, like, gang, Lane, do yourself a favor, okay, and go to like, I don't know, go to freaking Somalia or some shit, or maybe go to the favelas of Brazil, and then see how you'll probably stop thinking about all these introspective thoughts that you're having, about being, I don't know, being, having different personalities and being stuck on the wired, and having to worry about all these things. I mean, being sheltered definitely takes a hit in your brain when you don't really have anything else to do, when you don't really have that much responsibilities, right? But guess what? I mean, eighth grader syndrome is absolutely going crazy on your ass right now, and I'm confused. I'm 19 minutes in episode 9. There's 4 more episodes left with Serial Experiments Lane, and you're telling me that, yeah, okay, she's pretty much connected to the Wired, but then she's also like, ever since the beginning of the Wired, she's been there. She's omnipotent. She ends up seeing one of her friends, Alice, or Arisu, I think is what they're calling each other, right? They're saying Arisu, but that sounds like Alice to me. So Alice apparently has a thing for her teacher. Lain catches her, and she snitches on everybody. So I'm thinking that's the Wired Lain who snitched on everybody, right? But then Lain of the real world, quote unquote real world, decided, hey, you know what? No, forget that. Everyone forget Lain. And they did. And the one that they know, I think what I'm getting at, what was it, episode 8 or 7? That Lain, the Wired one, ended up going into the real world. I don't know. And you're telling me she can like manipulate like maybe even reality. She ends up doing like this apparition kind of thing where she ends up popping up from the sky like she's Mother Mary, and all these kids, like the apparition in like Portugal or something back in 19, when was it, 1917. Like, Brody, come on, bro. Like, I'm lost, bro. I'm genuinely lost with this show. I don't even know where to even like try to dissect everything, because it just feels like I just feel lost. I feel lost, and the fact that there's like four more episodes left. I like, we didn't even have. What's the game even? Like, there's this thing about games, about children playing on a, on a game, and then there's this one mom who gets hit on by like the delivery guy, and then she got like the game thingy or whatever it was, and then there's this guy who wants to be part of the knights. Apparently Lane has been in contact with the knights as well, and then there's this one random ass guy who I think is like the leader, or like the boss of like the two agents that keeps on following Lain, and he pretty much pushes her into a corner because he kept on asking her questions about who she really is, and then she crashes out, and then she turns different, and apparently she's got like some multiple personality disorder or some shit, right? She has the wired version and the real world version, and why? 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 You'll watch me. You'll watch me in the next few minutes. Okay, watch me for the next few minutes. React to the final few minutes of episode 9. If you wanna, go along with me, 9 minutes and 13 seconds in. Between the ionosphere and there's a constant resonance at a frequency of 8 hertz in the ELF band. This is called a Schumann resonance. Schumann resonance. The extent of the effect on humans of these Earth brainwaves that the planet constantly gives off remains unknown. The Earth's human population is approaching the number of neurons in the brain. Douglas Rushkoff proposes that the consciousness of the Earth itself might be awakened when all humans on Earth become collectively networked. Oh, sure. The network's evolution would follow a neural model, and just as neurons within the human brain are connected by synapses, the Earth itself would become a neural network. Oh my god, bro. Shut up. Just shut up for 1 second, please. Guys, the number of neurons in the human brain, the human population on Earth is actually approaching the same number of neurons in the human brain. So now, like, the Earth is actually turning into the brain. This esoteric bullshit ass. There's only one truth. God. Eiri Masami, chief researcher at Tachibana Labs, further developed the hypothesis of a worldwide neural network. His hypothesis proposed a wireless network whereby all humanity would be plugged in at an unconscious level without the need for any device. Furthermore, he encoded the Schumann resonance factor and inserted it into the 7th gen wired protocol on his own initiative. So everyone's in the wired now? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Oh, no one's yet. Okay, he just died, right? Okay. Who is it this time? Somebody's on the street. Who is it? The scientist who got killed? Okay. Um What? Why he's got markings on his face? Why he look freaky, man? Oh my gosh, stop with this bullshit, bro. I'm so done, bro. I'm so done. I'm so lost. I'm episode 10. Fuck's sake, bro. 4 episodes left. I'll see you later. I'll see you later once I finish this. Who knows? Maybe some crazy ass bullshit is gonna happen in episode 10. And then I'm just even more muddied. Uh, I'm just making a video because I'm. I don't even know. Episode 11 of Serial Experiments Lane, and I really am. I really am lost. I'm gone. I'm so far gone. And I want to say that I think the most human thing I've ever seen in this whole entire show was Lain trying to revert the actions of her other self. I think that's the only thing out of this whole show that felt so consistent with me, at least, right? Because in a few episodes ago, out of nowhere, Lain ends up catching, well, the other version of Lain, the wired version of Lain, ends up catching Alice. Uh, she ends up catching her rubbing herself out to her teacher, and then that wired version ends up snitching to everybody, and it just went downhill from there. And then now in episode 11, Lain comes up to her in this alien body, and she says that I've pretty much blurred the boundaries between the wired and the real world. I can freely move around the real world and the wired world as if it was if as if it was just second nature to me. It reminds me of that one movie. What was it called? Lucy. You know that one movie, Lucy, where there's this like girl who ends up taking this drug, then she ends up like achieving 100% of her brain power, and I'm just like, that was really cool. That was really cool. But this one is just, for some reason I can't bring myself to really call out Serial Experiments Lain, or call it upfront, call it bad. I was gonna say another word, but I can't bring myself to really call it. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm just confused, or once this series like ends, and I'm so, I'm like so, how do I say this? Like I'm so compelled to just hop on like the Wikipedia or something, and just find something, some kind of explanation to it, other than her having some kind of identity crisis, and her being part of like her being a machine, a software, that weird guy who kept on calling himself God, and apparently like all of that information was being sent to her, right? And in episode 11, we see that the guy explained that all that information was being transported to her brain, and she was pretty much just a software with a body. But we get to see here that I don't know what it is, a fabrication of reality, but she did say she's able to cross the world of the wired and the real world. So I don't know. It really does remind me a lot of Lucy, how she's able to go from like electronics, but then at the same time, she's able to manifest into the real world and have a body, a physical body. And, pretty much out of all of here in Serial Experiments Lane, that's the only thing that I felt like has been okay. I can, that scene, or at least not that scene, but that whole exchange with her between Alice and their relationship, I feel like has at least some kind of value, or not value, substance. There you go. Her relationship with her, I can sense that there's at least a bit of substance. I mean, not to mention how like there's this one guy, right, who was, I think, one of the agents who helped in bringing down the Knights. They ended up assassinating them. I say assassinating because they were reported to be suicides, but I doubt those are suicides with that kind of scale and that amount of people. So they definitely had a hand in their killing. But I think one of the guys there, the blue-eyed guy, said that he loved Lain. And I was like, wait a second. I decided to go back and I wanted to look at his eyes in particular. And I was like, your eyes do kind of look familiar. Like they're not, Lane's eyes aren't blue, but that doesn't change the fact that maybe she had a mother. But then again, she's what, a machine? But then they can they can see her, but they've seen her all this time. So, when she was first in the real world. But I'm starting to think, like, yeah, maybe she is just the subject of an experiment where initially she had a real body. And then, they did like some Truman Show type thing, experiment with her. And then it ultimately resulted to her being a part of the Wired. And, Chisa, the girl who committed suicide, appears again. And it's just really, I feel so out of touch. I think the whole time watching this series, I was droning out, I was spacing out. I was trying to like absorb everything, absorb all of the information that I've been just getting. But it's like, holy, I, I really cannot. I really cannot. I think I'm lost. I really am lost. I mean, there's 2 episodes left. I don't really know what is up, what is going to be in the last 2 episodes. Maybe it has something to do with what her choice is gonna be. Is would she really want to be fully integrated into the Wired, or be a part of like the real world, or is she somewhere in between that? So I'll I guess I'll record the last episode, like my full reaction, episode 13. I'll go ahead and record that, and you see how I've been like throughout this whole series. Oh man, I'm sorry. I'm actually yawning because it's like everything just feels so slow. You know how it feels like when you're slowing down in time. I mean, we haven't even started talking about the drug, right? Axella, and then that one guy who shot himself. We also get to see him alive, which probably is like him being uploaded into the Wired. Same goes for Chisa, but then Lain says that she finally understands what Chisa said, and then Chisa was like, "No, no, no, you didn't be." I don't know. I'm so lost. I think for like the first, how many minutes was that? First, first, give me a second. Like, yeah, 11 minutes into episode 11, it was just a bunch of like scenes and clips of the whole series. And she ends up meeting with, or she ends up, or she ends up getting the information, or should I say, remember that moment she had with Alice when they were talking in the rooftop. But yeah, I mean, I'm just really really freaking lost with this show. Initially, the way I looked at it was, oh, it's just a teenager who's going through a phase, and she's definitely gonna grow out of it, because this isn't like something that people are just like, you could tell me, oh yeah, people struggle with loneliness and all these sort of things, and I do agree with that. But is it to like the level of Lain? Maybe some people might end up sympathizing, or thinking, oh, I want to be like Lain. I want to be where I want to be, even if it means going to the Wired just to be accepted, and all these kinds of things. I mean, the moment for some reason I always imagine like throughout this whole series. I always imagine, what if we like send we send Lane to like the favelas of Brazil, or like send her to freaking Egypt or something. I'm not saying like any of those countries are bad. I'm just saying that when you're in those countries, you're more than likely to just, be focused on trying to survive, trying to go about your daily life. And it really forces you to be a lot more, I guess, open, talking with people. Like everywhere you go, you have to talk with people. Unlike the more reclusive and quiet and more stable environment of Japan, where everything tends to result to stagnation, and that could be, that could affect like a human mind. But as the series sort of devolved into whatever it is now, I think I've been straying away a little bit further and further away from those thoughts, because it's like, so Lain is a machine all along. She was made by this guy who, I don't know why he wanted to in the first place. Had something to do with him finding out about, you know, using this global wired network where every human being is like they're unconsciously connected to the wired, and you know um and all these, I don't know, I just feel lost. I feel lost if by episode 12, once I finish episode 12 and then finally do my reaction on episode 13, if I still have the urge to look up Serial Experiments Lane, I will look it up, and I will look up the Wikipedia. I will look up everything just to, just to satiate my confusion about this show. But yeah, episode 11, that was it. Just really, really out of it this whole time. Oh well. Moving on to episode 12. Okay, I'm gonna be watching episode 13 now of Serial Experiments Lane, and I will say I did like episode 12 a bit. I think out of the whole, I'm sorry for calling it as it is, but out of the whole mess, like around the middle part, the middle section of this series has been, seeing how the decision of Lane to actually fight against that person, 80, right? The guy who keeps on calling himself God. And it's kind of funny when people call themselves God or something. It's like it doesn't change the fact that you're still affected by human, by everything human. Like you may not have a physical human body, but you still have a human mind. It doesn't change the fact that you still think and act like a human being. And guess what? Human beings fall, human beings can mess up, human beings can get corrupted. So it's no any different, right? To calling yourself a pretty stupid human, a monkey, as Frieza would say. But I will be watching episode 13 now of Serial Experiments Lane. It's funny because throughout this whole series as well, like I just kept on singing like constantly, right? Because I mean, everywhere in this series, it's like technology, right? Technology and all that kind of stuff, and there's this one song that keeps on popping up in my head. I don't think it's appropriate for this series, but I just can't help. You want me to sing it? I'll sing it. It goes like this. What is this steady blood doing on the calculator is blood? Shut up. Okay, let's go. I'm gonna be watching episode 13. We will be going through like the ED and the OP. So I'm about to play it now. No, wait. Now. Okay. Just oh, this is different. Lane is, there's no, the guy's not here. The guy's not here. You're confused. I'm confused. I don't know, bro. Okay, sure. I don't know. Does it really matter now at this point? Does it really matter? I only exist inside those people who are aware of my existence. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, bro. You tell me. And you don't seem to understand. Yeah, I actually did not understand. I actually did not understand. Even after 13 episodes, I can get the gist of like the whole point of this series of this show, but it ends up getting convoluted right around the middle part. Actually, more than the middle part. But look, I mean, we're reaching a conclusion now. It's funny because it's like in reality, Lain is really technically the only person going through this. Like when you look at it, when you look at it in a really far distance, it's just her. It's literally just her. Everything in here, it's all. It's funny because it's all up in her head. Yes, it does affect the real world to a degree, but it really is just all up in your head, Lane. I mean, you're in eighth grade, so maybe that has something to do with it. You might still think like an eighth grader, even though you're what a program. I'm missing. I don't even know the lyrics. Down, 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 down. Okay. Echo. Wait, is it? Yeah, it is Echo. Layer 13. Ego. Oh, damn. Yeah, Eddie, the guy who keeps on calling himself God, decides to manifest his flesh or manifest into a real body, and it's like really nasty. But I'm glad that Lain actually decided to go up against him because he is pretty stupid, and as the title says, ego. Yeah, Arius is just or Alice is just really going crazy over this. Wait, what is she's going crazy? Wait, what? It happened, right? It's not all in her head, is it? Get her a blanket. Oh no. Oh. Hey, she's bleeding though, so that means Lane is alive. That is her body, so isn't that good? I mess up everything I try to do for you. She just gave up. Gang, this is the reality that you're in, okay? She got so traumatized from this. I mean, I'm not gonna laugh, right? Because of course, anyone who sees this would fucking go crazy. Like you just see somebody like turn into human flesh and all that out of nowhere. All reset. Oh, we're returning. Did Lane decide to just reset? And this fucking hum every single damn time it's there. I still don't understand why. Typically I'll find out some of the symbolism in this show. This humming has been consistent, right? I've never been able to find it. Is this really the beginning? This is actually the beginning. COD. Cash on delivery? There's no Lane. Lane doesn't exist. Damn. That is kind of sad. Oh, wait, they don't. Okay, no. She still has Mika, right? They still have Mika. So is this like Lane's perspective? Like we can just go through everything. Or no, maybe we're just seeing everything just reset. Okay, so is this like everything in episode 1 except Lane isn't here where she would normally be. You see how empty it looks, guys? See how empty it looks? Wait, do I know this song? No, I don't. I thought I knew it. It's kind of nice. Nice that Lane's gone. I don't know. Don't ask me. But I like the song. Alice is there. So Lane isn't here anymore, right? Siberia, man. Fuck that place. Male who? No. Don't tell me she'll also say male who. Who was I gonna mail? Don't say that. You want her to come along again? Oh, Chisa. So there really is no Lane. I think she still knows Lane exists. Don't remember something and never happened. If you aren't remember, you never existed. Well, Lane existed in my head, but it is her choice, so. So at least here, Chisa exists. So Lane just hit the reset button. Oh, there you go. Lane is actually in the freaking Wired. Isn't this the guy who shot himself? Okay. I honestly do not care about these dipshits, man. These motherfuckers went to a club. Where are your parents? Who is this guy? 80. He's quitting his job? Uh, they're finally repairing it or changing it. Oh, it's that guy, the agent guy, who's now turned into an they're both electricians now. Is it literally them being Daenerys back to saying he's gonna quit? There's still that hum. There is the hum is still there. The hum is still there. What isn't remembered never happened. I guess memory is merely a record. I guess you just need to rewrite that record. The thing is, like, sometimes even those actions you did from the past, they do leave a mark, whether it's in your mind. Present day. Present. What's up, Lain? You're telling me you're on my laptop now? I mean, go ahead. Wait, but we just redid it. Did we not? We're in the same thing again. No narrator or anything. Is that you, Lain? In the middle of the street? It is her. She just I don't know. I think all I got here is anything that's like related to loneliness. You sound just like him. The Wired isn't a upper layer of the real world. Maybe. I don't think I need to know. The human world creates and prays to its various gods, and humans convince themselves this is how the world is. Or maybe that's just your worldview, right? Let me just tell you that, Lain. Or your wired version. Lain was never a person. I mean, if you believe that, omnipresent, existing everywhere. What? What is happening? Is her wired version going crazy? She's glitching out. That's her fake dad, isn't it? That is. He's. Oh man, oh man, oh man, I am confused. The Kuma outfit. Who is he? Well, at least I know she's not alone, right? That's all that matters, I guess. Wait, is that Mika? There's Lain on the bridge, watching her older sister. Wait, am I tripping? I'm tripping balls. Is that Mika or is that Alice? Grown up. That is Alice grown up, right? No? Bro, I'm tripping. Did you go to the school I was a student teacher at? No, that was your classmate. Wait, this is Alice. I was tripping. Why was I saying Mika? Yeah, Alice. For fuck's sake, bro. Come on. I literally want to slap myself. Lain. So she doesn't really remember it. Okay. At least she's smiling. Thought they were gonna do some shit like adopt her. No, they wouldn't. Yeah, they can. So she's like, Lucy, right? I'm here, so I'll be with you forever. Really now? Are you really on my laptop? You're not on my laptop. There it is. That is the end of Serial Experiments Lane. I mean, what am I supposed to say, bro? I was lost in this anime. Ugh, it's an anime, alright. I mean, I didn't let anyone else's initial, or I didn't want anyone else's, uh, not opinion, but how they think about the show affect how I saw the show. Because I did hear some praise from some people, like I think on the internet or something, like maybe TikTok, like people were saying like Lain this, Lain that. Even the opening, I was like, wait, I heard this opening used in like, because I've heard of this song, but I also knew that this song was like used in TikTok, and I was like, oh, so people are using this song not because it's like they're using this song because it's Lain, right? And here I am now watching Lain, because I was interested. I was like, okay, I've seen people on TikTok talk about Serial Experiments Lain, and I'll see for myself. And here I am. Um, I don't know what to say. I literally do not know what to say because I guess you could say I'm like a little confused about the show, and I could get the ideas, I could get the themes, I could get the gist of it, I could get this talk about identity, um, you know, God and being alone, and even things like mistakes and who you are, you know, on the wired on the internet, I suppose, and then in the real world, all these sort of things. But it just right around the middle part, it really got so convoluted. I think during that, oh man, that was just getting as bad as it could get. I mean, ugh. I was like, where the frick am I? I felt like I was in an acid trip like the whole time. I felt like I was in a dream, in a limbo. I was like, what am I doing, bro? Just watching the show and just droning on about it, and then watching like this girl go on about how she's struggling with herself, struggling with the people around her, struggling with what is real, reality, and all that kind of stuff, and who is she, where is she, and it's is to might as well, right? Might as well, to boil it down. Like, would I be the type of person to recommend this to other people? No, not because I'm scared other people might look at me and be like, bro, you recommended me a shit anime. No, maybe a part of me wants to like gatekeep it, but no, I'm way past that person who I was. But I'm also not the type of person to be like, okay, oh yeah, I'm gonna recommend this to you because this shit is like, it's weird, and but it's also like profound. Like, I suppose honestly, I'm gonna give it like, I want to rate it. I think it's a 6.9, maybe between a 6.5 and a 6.9. I don't think it's a 7 though. I think I've initially I've had problems with the themes or the topics that are involved in the story. I looked at it in a way that, oh yeah, the reason why topics like these are so prolific in anime is because in Japan, this is how their culture is. Their culture is very reclusive, reserved. These people don't really tend to be very expressive. And then I also start to think, like, what environment is Lain in? Lain is in a sheltered, stable environment, and so she ends up having these thoughts, right? And then halfway through, like, the the anime. It's like, no, she's a machine. In reality, she's a machine. But she's like a program. She's like a software. So it's not any more of like, oh yeah, there's this girl in eighth grade who's having these phases. I suppose you could say it. Although I'm not trying to downplay it. I'm just saying like she's going through this like phase of hers, but she's sheltered, she has food, she has stability and all that, so she's not really worried about anything. And so what happens is she ends up being in this sort of echo chamber in her mind, and that constantly repeats all these things, and it really just skewers your brain. But I just found out, oh well, she's a machine, kind of a machine, but she also has a real world body. But then they said that that was just a hologram, it's just artificial ribosomes, all these tech, these technicalities and terms and labels that they put. It's just, I look, I could talk about a lot of things. I feel like with serial experiments, Lane, I could talk about it with somebody at like maybe 2 a.m. in the morning, and I have nothing to talk about. Like if like we're eating something, right, or maybe drinking a can of something, I just be like, hey, you watch that? Have you seen the serial experiments? Like, I'll talk about it for like maybe a few minutes to maybe a few hours, and then after that, move on from it. But the show, I don't know what to feel about it. I really don't know how to feel about it. Oh well. I got food coming over, so I'll see you on the next anime, I guess, guys. But before that, I'll have a few things to talk about serial experiments, Lane, but that'll be for another time. Okay, maybe after this video, after you see this video. But okay, yeah. I'll see you guys on the next anime, whatever it is. Sayonara.